Hello, and welcome or welcome back if you're a sucker for punishment, coming back for more. So good to see everybody. And, you know, throughout time, humanity has been wrestling with one just important question. Philosophers, theologians, drunk people at 2 a.m. have all been asking this important question. Is God the arsehole? That is absolutely what we're here to ask. We're here to ask that simple question. And it's somebody in the chat, Stop the Stupidity, who is actually the originator of this absurd idea, said that things are getting absurd. It's great to take a break from the absurdity of real life. Take a breath, take a break, and go and see something with some substance, some depth, some true impact in this world. Unfortunately, I'm not going to give you that. We're going to look at the absurdity of the Bible. Okay, that's basically what we're doing. So we're going to be asking, is the actions of a deity in the Bible, would it pass the Reddit test of am I the asshole? And it's a very good question. Uh, Allergyville. Okay, that I've heard that place sucks to live in, Sapphire. I've heard that place absolutely sucks. Yeah, no, Jedi, I get it. It's been stressful, man. Like everything's stressful at the moment. Hopefully I can, distract you for a second or make you laugh for a second or, you know, cringe for a second. That's a different emotion than the horror that we all feel right now as events unfold. So yeah, even a bit of cringe. It's better than the abject horror at what is unraveling in the Western world today. I totally get it. I totally get it. So let's move on from that and see if we can't ask the question. I mean, we all know who the arsehole is in our modern society. It's time to look at who the arsehole is in biblical society, if that's a thing. Hopefully that's a thing. And it's fantastic to see you all. It's really good. I have definitely missed you. Been looking forward to this one. Been looking forward to this one. So basically, we're just going to be going through some Reddit posts from just any deity that wants to write in, explaining if they're the arsehole or not. And then we're going to be voting on it. I'm going to be putting up a poll. You can vote. You can, because voting is important. Trust me, it is. It's really important, and we need to do it as soon as possible. Just letting you know. Just letting you know. I will get that up, and we will begin away. But I hope you're all well. As well as possible, given the circumstances. Hope you're doing okay. Yeah, it's a bit of a wild one. I gotcha. I'm gonna zoom in on that. So that is a broad category, yeah, but we're not asking who is the arsehole. We're not asking who. Okay, we're asking, is a particular deity in the Bible morally corrupt and horrible? That's what we're asking. Okay, that's the only question that matters right now. All right, just relax. Relax. It's the only question that matters. And we're starting after last week was fantastic. We did Genesis 1 and 2. People had mixed opinions, which is great. I love it. People have mixed opinions. I love to see why somebody thinks they are, not just whether they are or not. So why they are is really what we're after. So first off the block, we have I Am Yahweh posting for am I the asshole for punishing humans after a snake convinced them I was lying? Yeah, what's absurd about this? Yeah, there's nothing absurd about this, right? And I've just said this before. Like, it must be hard to be a fundamentalist Christian in the 21st century. Going, there's death and disease and decay, and we have these problems with bacteria and stuff like that. All these problems with all this stuff. Instead of it being, organisms and biological systems that really are hostile to us just because they're trying to survive, like a competitive thing, really they have to, or they don't have to, but they do believe that all of this is bad because a snake convinced a woman to eat a magic fruit. Like, seriously, I don't know how in the 21st century you can go, that seems reasonable. That seems reasonable. Forget all germ theory. I'm into magic fruit theory. Like, I don't know how in this day and age where we have computer systems, we have bionics, we have robotics, we have artificial intelligence. You're sitting there going, yeah, no, but the magic fruit theory, that's the one for me. Just saying, all right? It may be true. It's just I don't find it plausible. Let me break it to you. Okay, let's see. So we've got this Redditor. So I, male, infinity, created a man and the woman who were living in the garden I made for them. Okay, the bit of a tense problem in there. Look, if there's any spelling mistakes or stuff like that, it's my fault. It's 100% my fault, all right? Like, just blame me. That's not... Look, I'm not going to blame God for my bad tense, my bad punctuation, and my bad spelling, all right? Like, there's no way. It's not their fault. They had access to everything they needed. Did they, though? Did they, though? I wonder. Because, one of the things that humans do need is sort of self-actualization, right? Like, it's basically being the best version of yourself you can be, right? So, self-actualization is kind of this, what are my good points? What are my bad points, right? Like, what am I good at? What am I bad at? Being aware of that and being able to compensate for it. And, could Adam and Eve even self-actualize if they don't know what parts of themselves are good and what parts of themselves are bad? Can they even do that? It's a question, right? Like, did they have the possibility to grow as humans? Like, to develop as humans? Left-handed Jedi for $5 US. Thank you, Jedi. And I can say you are not the arsehole. I'll say that right now. You need to find an anatomical picture of a snake and find the vocal cords. Yeah, well, I've heard apologetics for this, funnily enough. I've heard them say, because I said, there is no way that a snake can talk, kind of thing. A serpent can talk. It's just not something that can happen. And they've sort of said, oh, but God took away those vocal cords when he cursed them. And it's like, really? Really? We're going to make you crawl on the belly all of your days, and we're going to take away your ability to speak. Take that, serpent. Now you regret convincing a woman to eat a magic fruit. They had access to everything they needed, except for self-development, obviously, because, yeah, they're stuck in a garden with no knowledge of good and evil. I told them, and there was exactly one rule in place. I told them not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that I had placed in the garden. If you remember from last time, he actually placed two trees there. It was a tree of life and the tree of good and evil. So they had access to, so they could eat the fruit of life, right? They could eat the fruit that would keep them living forever. It's very strange. Yeah, that's a good point. You wouldn't just do the vocal cords. You'd have to, get rid of the speech centers. Right. But apparently, it's God. He can apparently do anything. Apparently. Don't be silly, Ember. Jellyfish couldn't talk in the first place. Don't be silly, all right? That's just ridiculous. A talking jellyfish. Come on. Next you'll be telling me that donkeys can talk in the Bible or something. Come on, don't be ridiculous, all right? I was very clear and said they would die if they ate the fruit. That sounds reasonable. I thought this would prevent them from eating it. Like you would, right? Like you would. You wouldn't tell them the consequences, like, oh, if you do this thing, I will be forced to kick you out of the garden and you will not have eternal life and, you will suffer. No, you go straight to death, right? That's always, with children, what you do. Just threaten them. Then a serpent entered the situation. This wasn't just any animal. It was clever and more subtle than the rest. It approached the woman and immediately reframed the rule, asking whether I had really forbidden them from eating from any tree. The woman told the serpent the rule and explained that she would die if she would ate it. If she ate it. She would die if she ate it. The serpent responded by outright contradicting me, claiming they wouldn't die, and suggesting that I was just trying to withhold something from them. According to him, eating the fruit would make them like me, able to determine good and evil for themselves. At that point, the woman looked at the tree differently. She thought the fruit looked good and desirable and would also make her wise. Well, I mean, it kind of did, right? They could tell good from evil, and that did actually happen. I mean, they could tell good from evil. So she ate the fruit and gave some to the man, who was right there and didn't object. Immediately something changed. They became aware of their nakedness and felt exposed in a way they hadn't before. Instead of coming to me, they tried to fix it themselves by sewing fig leaves together. This was the first time they'd ever tried to hide. Yes, it wasn't strictly true they would die when they ate the fruit, but it was true in a certain punitive sense. Yeah, and that's the problem. The problem is that it says that they will die the day they eat that fruit, and that was not strictly true. Like, you could say, hey, it was metaphorical, it was sort of in a roundabout way, it was like to do with the curse, it was to do with this, but it wasn't strictly true. Later, when I came to walk in the garden, they avoided me. That was new. I asked where they were, even though I knew where they were. Because don't forget, God's omniscient. He has to know where they are. He doesn't, he's asking simply, you know, it was a test. It was a test. It was just a test, because he knew where they were, obviously. Obviously. But he had to ask anyway to see if they would own up or whatever. Even though I knew where they were, and the man admitted they were hiding because they were afraid. So I knew they had done something. Okay, the question does arise, why hadn't you known what they had done? Right? Like, why didn't you know? You're a god, you should know that they've eaten from the fruit already if you're omniscient, but he doesn't know. This is the weird thing about Genesis, right? That God's asking all of these questions he already has the answers to, presumably, but doesn't seem to in this particular verse. It's weird. It's weird. It's very strange. When I asked if he had eaten from the forbidden fruit tree, why does he have to ask? Don't know. He said yes, but immediately blamed the woman, which is kind of throwing her under the bus, is kind of, you know, it's a bit of a dick move. I mean, come on. When I asked the woman, she blamed the serpent. No one actually took responsibility. Presumably the serpent wouldn't either. He probably would have blamed the tree. Like, let's face it, no one's taking responsibility. No one's, you know, taking responsibility at all. So a good God had to hand down strict discipline. Is that what this guy is? Is it really? Wow, okay. So I told the serpent there'll be consequences for what it had done, and that I cursed him and all his descendants to crawl on the ground forever and eat dust. Well, in a certain metaphorical sense, right? Because the serpent doesn't, like, snakes don't actually eat dust. That's the thing. Like, they're not, their tongues going out is not, like, they're not actually eating the dust. They're feeling for vibrations. This is a wild statement to make. They're cursed to eat dust. Snakes famously do not eat dust. Okay. Weird. Very strange. I told the woman that the pain and struggle would now be part of life, especially in childbirth and relationship. So the question that I have is, if he cursed the woman in the garden, because he told them in the last section to go forth and multiplied. So presumably they were having babies already. How did childbirth look in those days? You know, if there was no pain of childbirth, you just didn't have any pain. Like, how was it occur? Was it standard normal like we have? Did she just yeet the child out, you know, without a problem? Did some sort of osmosis? Like, what was happening in childbirth? I don't know. I don't know. And that's a good point. Did the serpent have legs? No, well, I mean, maybe. I don't know. The text is silent on this one, but it's a good question. Did it have four legs? Did it like wander around on two legs? What did it look like before it was cursed to crawl on the belly? Like, yeah, I did it have wheels? I don't know. If you take the descriptions of angels, then God's really big on wheels. Apparently, I don't know. Just saying. I have no idea. Um, I told the man that work would no longer be effortless. I don't know. Like, does that mean they were like working in the garden and it just didn't require any effort whatsoever? I mean, it's very, very strange. It's very strange that the ground itself would resist him, and that life would now include frustration, sweat, and eventual death. I also made it so the man would rule over the woman, and I do admit I may have gone a bit far with this one. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's very strange. It's very strange. But it's like the ground would resist him. Okay, so we invent, like, half tracks and backhauls and stuff. I Okay, we've now got backhauls and constructors and, you know, machinery, like industrial machinery for it. I Okay. Was that a part of the curse? It would resist us until you invent the backhaul and construction equipment, and then basically the ground's your bitch. I don't remember that part, but sure, sure. And yes, it does say, if you're following with your Bible, which I know you people have, by your side, ready to grab at any time you're questioned. It does say that God gave man the authority over woman. It does say that, so don't at me. That's not my opinion. That's God's. Okay, that's God's. Backhauls, backhauls. Yeah, yeah. Isn't that what they're called? Look, I'm not a construction guy, but I thought it was a backhaul. Maybe we've got different idea of what a backhaul is. Maybe it's a trucking thing? Wow, okay, I don't know. What am I thinking of then? Um, I'm not sure what I'm thinking of then. Uh, Excavators, I guess. Excavators is what I'm thinking of. Track hoe, maybe. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Look, I don't even know what I'm talking. Backhoe? Backhoe? It's American, you call it backhoe? Okay. Look, it's probably my brain. I've probably just come up with the wrong name for it. Backhoe. Okay, cool. Yep. Um oh. Seth Andrews, the Thinking Atheist channel has just been terminated. Please politely ask YouTube why and ask it to be reinstated immediately. Alert everybody. Okay. Colorado biker prepper. I have no idea. So they don't know why it's been terminated? That's wild. That is wild. Has he done any kind of post about it or anything? Hang on a sec. I got to investigate this. I'm sorry to interrupt your weekly scheduled absurdity, but um, atheist cancelled. Uh, Seth Andrews. Um, I don't understand why he would be terminated. I mean, he doesn't do any. Wow. Okay. I scam, spam, or deceptive. Hold it. He's got a blue sky. I will share it with you. Thinking atheist. Wow. Okay. What? A few minutes ago, calling it a scam, spam, or deceptive. It's been said that um, a couple of people have reasoned that people sent in um, thingos. So yeah, no, I got you. Like, there's nothing that the thinking atheist does that's scammy or deceptive. Seth Andrews is a very upfront individual. He's got a lot of integrity. Um, a video about big tech was posted minutes before the deletion. Well, I mean, I'm not going to get into any conspiracy stuff, but yeah, that's absolutely wow, okay. And I, for one, think that our YouTube overlords can never do anything wrong and are just incredible. I honestly, you know, um, what did Colorado? Thank you, Colorado Biker Prepper. Really appreciate it. But be polite when you're challenging YouTube, absolutely, because it won't be the decision of some random person who deals with you, kind of thing. Um, wow, that is actually quite scary. That you can be like, if there was a channel that I would cancel for being scammy and deceptive, Seth Andrews and Thinking Atheist would not be it. Uh, wow. Okay, that's absolutely screwed. All right, that's enough for that, because wow, that is terrible. That is absolutely terrible. Hopefully he goes on, and challenges that. I 100% think we should write in, but I'm not sort of saying, hey, hassle. Just maybe if you do enjoy that channel, politely ask. Um, well, I'm yeah, just no warning, no message, and that's all I could find over it. Sure. Send feedback. Yeah, if you did enjoy the Thinking Atheist and do want to send feedback, that's fine. I do stress, though, please be polite. Please be reasonable. I'm sure Seth Andrews wouldn't want it any other way than being polite, reasonable, and questioning them. Absolutely. Don't hassle the staff, because it probably was not their decision. So um, yeah. Anyway, back to the thing. And thank you, Colorado Biker Prepper. That is concerning. That's really concerning. Um, there is nothing about the Thinking Atheist that I've ever found even slightly scammy or deceptive or anything like it. That is wild. Um, You're probably right. You're probably 100% right. Yes. But what is wild is that you can have people like Jim Bob and Andrew Wilson, who do anti-vax and medical misinformation and all of these dubious claims. They lie about statistics. They do all of this crap, and they get there just fine. They're just fine. And Seth Andrews, who has a lot of integrity and makes sure he is correct in what he's saying, he's the one that's targeted. That's absolutely disgusting. I am shocked and appalled, quite frankly. I'm absolutely shocked and appalled. Colorado Biker Prepper, I will pass that on. And yeah, if you want to, throw a message in the Discord as well. I'll try and do that. Maybe someone can do it as I go along, but thank you for letting us know about that one, mate. Okay. Even though I was really angry, I didn't abandon them. I made garments of skin for them. Ooh, skin. How very, gosh, how very, very chic is skin. Fig leaves were not enough. Yeah, no, you need that skin, mate. Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's right. That's right. That's fine too, for example. Yeah. There seems to be a massive inconsistency in what is allowed and what is not allowed. But anyway, I'm going to move on. It absolutely sucks. Hopefully that gets overturned. I don't see why it wouldn't. I don't see any reason why thinking atheist, unless, you know, Seth Andrews lost his mind and sort of, you know, drunkenly shouted stuff into his channel. I don't see a reason why that would happen. That is ridiculous. I acknowledge that they now understood good and evil, but letting them eat from the tree of life would let them live forever, which presumably they were doing before, right? Like, presumably they were eating from the tree of life before, because he said you can eat from any tree. And quite frankly, you know, if there's one tree I would eat from, it's definitely the good, the tree of life. You know, it's in the name. So I positioned a bouncer with a flaming sword to stop them from coming back in. Yeah, as you do, which would not be according to my plan. Your plan sucks, mate. This guy's plan is terrible, terrible. Now, people argue about this endlessly. Some people say that without knowledge of good and evil, the humans could not have understand why their choice was bad. Yeah, it's a bit of a problem, right? Like, without a knowledge of what is evil or what is good and evil, how do you know that that's an evil choice? How do you know that like disobeying God is evil? How do you know that without that knowledge? It's a bit of a catch-22 situation for the theist, really, because without knowledge of good and evil, oh, well, they should have just obeyed. Yeah, but if you don't know disobedience is evil, how do you know that you ought to obey? It's a bit of a problem. Others say that the serpent should not have been let into the garden, or that the tree should have had a fence around it. Yeah. I mean, it would have been good, right? Like, just put the tree in some, you know, area that is locked up so the humans can't get to it. You know. From my perspective, I gave them freedom, abundance, and one clear boundary. They chose to trust a creature over me, broke that boundary, and then hid instead of owning it. I still protected them, clothed them, and made sure I did curse them with death. But when dealing with insolent creations, you have to be strict. Am I the asshole here? Well, yeah, they should have just complied. And that's an apologetic we hear all the time. Totally get it, aren't you? But if you don't know that disobedience is bad, is evil, then you might go, well, I can disobey. It's fine. It's fine. Hello, McTime. Yeah. What would have happened if they ate nothing at all? Well, presumably they wouldn't have died. Presumably, you know. Worth noting, the first death in the Bible is God making those garments. Well, I mean, you don't know that. You don't know that. Look, he could have just skinned a deer and the deer's still alive and running around out there without a skin. You don't know. Like, if there was no death, then presumably he, like, skinned a deer and the deer just carried on as per usual, minus skin. Presumably. I don't know. Okay, the text is silent on what happened to the animals that donated those skins to the comfort of Adam and Eve. Okay, it's very, very silent on that account. I mean, that's more and more sounding like a horror movie, but it is silent. Look, I'm gonna get the poll up um, to let you wonderful people vote, because we like to vote, having a choice to vote. We want universal suffrage on this channel. And that means I'm going to make the entire audience suffer with my cringy jokes. No, that means that everybody gets to vote. Everybody. It's not just for the members. It's not just for the subscribers. Even if you are some troll coming in, yes, you get a vote. You get a vote. Was God the asshole for banishing Adam and Eve and cursing? Well, I mean, he cursed them and the serpents, cursing everyone, I guess. Everyone for eating a magic fruit. There we go. Okay, so presumably, according to the story, there was like all kinds of trees in the garden, and there was the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. So I don't know. You're more like an ogre McTight. Yeah, no, I get you. It's kind of wild though. This story is so like the plot holes are just furiously there. It's really odd because they can eat from any tree except for this one tree, which he like goes and shows them the tree that they're not supposed to eat from. Look, as far as I'm concerned, this is a story about temptation. It's a story about sort of being told not to do something and you do it anyway. Which is, a fundamental thing. Human curiosity, basically. To me, the moral of the story is curiosity killed the cat. That's basically the moral of the story. Aesop's fables have essentially the same thing. That curiosity killed the cat. You can be curious, there may be consequences. Totally understand. Yeah, no, I got it. But to believe this fundamentally, that this happened, I don't know who's doing that, and I don't know. Well, I know some of the people that are doing that, but holy crap, really, it's wild. After we have looked into this, I dare you to do was YouTube the asshole next week. Look, okay. Look, I only just got this one up and running, Skeptic Philosophy. I think that you're overestimating my ability to put these shows together. I got to be honest with you. I get that you guys are really supportive of me, but holy crap. Like, seriously. This took me a while, all right? Just I'm not very good at this stuff, all right? But yeah, it is surprising and shocking. Maybe Seth Andrews ate from the knowledge of tech, good and evil in tech, and was cursed to delete his channel all the days of his life. I don't know, all right? But I don't know what the offending thing was. I don't know whether it was a human or some kind of automated process that took his channel down. I don't know, but it's very wild, and I think I will be asking YouTube why. I really don't know why that would happen. It is very, very strange. Seth Andrews is a very he is a very he's a man with a lot of integrity. When I've heard him, I've always heard him talk about being reasonable, being rational. He's certainly not one of the more bombastic atheists out there. He's pretty reserved all in all. To be honest with you, I would expect Matt Delahunty to be taken down before Seth Andrews, just simply because, Matt Delahunty is a lot more outspoken about religion than Seth Andrews is. He's very and Seth Andrews is very cautious. I can't imagine how he's feeling right now. That would suck. I can only imagine how I would feel, and I would feel absolutely upset. I was absolutely upset. If I get upset when I get flagged for, putting arsehole in the title, much less having my entire channel taken down. I feel like there must be something else to this. There has to be, right? There has to be. I that is absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. Maybe Seth told the truth. You could be right, Al. You could be right. That's why I keep to making nonsense that nobody watches. That's my excuse. That's my excuse. I make schlocky stuff with cringe, so no one will watch it, so YouTube won't take my channel down. It's a strategy that works for me, and my channel has not been taken down even once. That's not a dare, by the way. Don't try to make it happen, all right? Like, please, I'm begging you. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. It's just, out of all the people you'd expect to get taken down. I mean, isn't Jake Paul still on YouTube? I mean, holy crap. That man is like a scammer. I don't, or in my opinion, is a scammer. That's just my opinion, by the way. I have to, like, if you're asking why I have opinions all of a sudden, it's because you can't get sued for opinion. And I am training myself to talk as if, at some point I may need to cover my ass, basically. Yes, I will cover my ass and not get sued, because if it's my opinion, you can't be sued for opinion. So, yeah. So, yeah, wow. But who's they? So here's the thing. I don't think YouTube in any way is governed by any kind of interest group, any kind of amalgamation, any kind of group that is sort of providing a reasonable exercise of power on them. So if you think it's, YouTube's being controlled by Christians, no. YouTube's being controlled by atheists, no. YouTube is very simple. It's a business. So they will be looking for the return on investment for their investors, like any business does. Now, if they have automated process, that could have been tripped by a large volume of complaints coming in about a certain channel, yes. It might not be. I don't know. So, you would expect. I mean, Seth Andrews. I don't know. It's very strange. I'm absolutely baffled, as you guys are. I really am. Seth Andrews of all people. It's very, very strange, and it's very strange that he did a tech story. I don't know, though. This is all speculation. It could have been a mistake. Look, if there's one thing I have learned from working in a tech company, or multiple tech companies, really, it's that sometimes mistakes do happen and it looks vindictive. It really does look vindictive, but it does happen. Like, one person screws up an account, some guy goes in to fix it and screws up the exact same account, even worse, right? Like, sometimes it does feel vindictive. And I know, because I have been the one to do that, okay? And not intentionally, okay? Not intentionally. But there was somebody did call in about, one part of their service that was slow or something, and I managed to brick their modem, okay? Through what I did, I managed to brick their modem. And bricking just means that it no longer works anymore. So they called in about slow internet speeds, and I bricked their modem, taking their service away entirely. Now, it does look vindictive, right? But it's not. It's just, in trying to fix something, sometimes you screw up even worse. It happens. So I hope that is the case, but yeah. Well, I mean, look, I am in Australia, but YouTube is in the United States. Well, I think the head office is in Ireland, actually. But for in all intents and purposes, they work on United States sort of regulatory stuff. So, yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you've all voted, because somebody's got to make this declaration about a certain deity we all know and we all apparently hate. We all apparently know and we all apparently hate, because yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. And it looks like overwhelming. Wow, we have consensus that God is the asshole. Yeah, no, I kind of agree. So the whole idea of putting people in a garden to work and sort of saying, hey, but it'll be effortless, and because you tell them not to do something, but they don't have any idea of what good and evil is, so they don't know that disobeying you is evil. At that point, it's like a child with absolutely no idea that something is wrong or right. You shouldn't do this, you should do that. I don't know how anything is supposed to live in an existence like that. And I don't know why. If somebody once said, like, oh, if I was a parent and put a lighter on a table and told children not to touch it, would it be their fault if they touched it and burnt the house down? No, it's your fault for leaving it in a place the children can get to. If they have no knowledge of what it's going to do, whether it's good or whether it's bad. I cannot, well, you know what? I would expect AI to be smarter than that. Maybe we got to talk in code. Maybe we got to come up with some codes. Like, we used grape kind of thing. Maybe we got to go, have something for our blasphemies. I'm not sure. Look, I'm very bad at doing memes, so maybe. We've got to, instead of hell, we've got to say bell. Okay, that's what we've got to do. That's what we've got to do. Okay, instead of God, we can say dog. Okay, that's I already know that one. Now, moving right along. But it's very good that you guys came up with a consensus. You know what? On this show, I've never had a consensus before, or the previous show, I've never had a consensus. Like, not 100%. I don't think. Maybe once or twice. I don't know. Ignorance is next to godliness. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So next up the line, we have. Oh, I did want to look at the some of the comments as well. I think the Seth Andrew news has taken it over, and that's fair. That's absolutely fair. God is simply an ass. He's the fetid rectal crevice of a swamp monster in which parasites are controlling the minds of angry ones. Look, Al, you got to stop watching horror movies, my guy. That is a description. That is 100% a description. Okay. Oh, thank you, STS. Look, I worked on this one really hard. I gotta say, I look. The best thing about this week is the thumbnail. Like that I was so pleased that I managed to copy the Adam thing. So, like, seriously, if you haven't seen the thumbnail, I took so many photos trying to get that right. Like, seriously. I just had to. I don't know why I do these things to myself. I think this room might be biased. Yeah, maybe. But I mean, everyone's welcome. If you have a different opinion, love to hear it. That's fine. That's 100% fine. It is a bit biased, yeah. I don't think many Christians are going to hang around when we're calling God a complete douchebag. But hey, they could. It's really weird though. You know, like it's very strange to me the way that they'll sort of call Muhammad this or call Allah that or call Buddha this and that and the other, but not their own guy. I always find it strange. You know, it's like if somebody says to me, "Oh, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson is an absolute hack." I'm like, okay. I mean, he's a noted astrophysicist. I don't know. Whoops. I don't know what you need from that, you know, but I you're entitled to your opinion. But you know, I think that people take this idea of God needs to be defended, and I don't understand why. Apparently, he's going to judge everybody. Apparently, he's all powerful. Why do you need to defend a God? I've never understood that. Never understood it. Oh, thanks, Theo. Really appreciate it, mate. It took so many shots to get the pose right. Like, it's a weird pose, right? It's almost like he's going, you know, but it's Eve. I had nothing. No, it's great. It's fantastic. Thanks, Theo. Um, okay, next off, am I the asshole? I am Yahweh again, because he's a serial redditor. People, Yahweh's a serial redditor. He can't stay off. Am I the asshole for rejecting one brother's offering and then not stopping him from killing the other? Yeah, I can kind of see how this is going to play out already, right? I really think I know how this is going to play out already in the vote. In the vote. So I, male, infinite, created a universe, and too long don't read is that I had to throw a couple of humans, a man and a woman, out of my place and into the world. Yeah, you did, didn't you? Because they listened to a talking snake. Yeah, no, that seems reasonable. The woman gave birth to a son named Cain, and then another son named Abel. Cain worked the ground, farming crops, while Abel kept flocks. You know, you gotta specialize in this world. You know, you can't know everything. You know, Cain worked the ground. Cool beans. Good on ya. And Abel kept flocks. Sure. Why not? You know, you got to specialize. You can't just do it all. After some time, both brothers brought offerings to me. Cain brought produce from the ground, and Abel brought delicious fat from the firstborn of his flock. Oh, that delicious firstborn fat. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Look, I'm not adverse to fruits and vegetables, right? Like I think that all in all, apples are amazing. Like I love apples. I love cucumber. I love what do you call it? Bell peppers or peppers? You know, we call it capsicum for some reason. Australians, right? We call it by the Latin name because apparently Australians are uncultured except for bell peppers for some reason. I don't know why. Like, it's so weird, right? Oh, uncultured, rowdy Australians, except when they're referring to capsicum from the family Capsicanus. What the hell is going on here? It's so weird. I don't know how we got the Latin version of the name. I want to know. I really want to know. It's very strange. But anyway, I love capsicum. I love carrot. Carrot's awesome. You know, I'm not averse to fruits and vegetables. To be honest with you, I'm all about it. You know, I do like a good salad. Like aubergines. You mean eggplant? Eggplant? Eggplant. Eggplant. No, the best thing that Australians named is I think you call it cantaloupe. We don't call it cantaloupe, right? The melon, and that cantaloupe is so delicious, right? So you call it cantaloupe. Take one guess what Australians call cantaloupe. Go on. You'll never guess it. No, the UK calls them bell peppers. I believe they call it bell peppers. Or just peppers. Does the UK call capsicum? Sweet peppers. Yeah, that's right. Sweet peppers as opposed to chili peppers. Right? Like, apparently, it's just Australia, New Zealand, and India, of all places. So India calls them capsicums because they are that is the Latin term for them. It's really weird. It's really strange. Broccoli's good, man. I will fight you on broccoli. I think broccoli's good. It's not fantastic, don't get me wrong, but if cooked right, it's good. No, you like cantaloupe? I do. Cantaloupe's really good. It's really good. Look, it's got to be like fresh and sweet and stuff, but wallaby dung? How dare you, Al? How dare you? How dare you? Wallaby dung. What are you? That feels a little bit like racist to me. Like seriously, Al, take a bonk. No, we call it rock melon. Rock melon. You know why we call it rock melon? You know why we call it rock? Do you know why we call cantaloupes rock melon? Because it looks like a fucking rock. That's why we call it rock melon. Admit it. Admit it. Cantaloupe does look like a rock. Okay, like just the outside, it's basically graveled, and it does. We call it rock melon. Like honeydew does not look like honey, nor does it look like dew. Okay, nor does it doesn't look like honey, and it doesn't look like dew. All right, but the cantaloupe, it does look like a rock. You're allergic to rock melon. Are you talking about cantaloupe misinterpretations? I'm trying to make Aussie guesses here. Look, I'm glad you're giving it your all. You're giving 1,000%. I love it, Al. I will still give you a bonk for that one. I 100% will. 100% will. Hey, AJ. Yeah, no, I totally get it. Anyway, back to Genesis 4, or this Reddit post, whichever one this is. Rock melon, yeah, it's the best name. It's the best name. All right, it is. Just accept it. Just from now on, confuse people. Like when they say, "Oh, would you like some cantaloupe?" Just go, "Oh, that's a rock melon. That's a rock melon." Because it looks like, look, you can confuse people. That's all Australians are doing. We're just confusing people. It's our national pastime, is confusing people. It works, mate. It works. Trust me. After some time, both brothers brought offerings to me. Cain brought produce from the ground. Look, if it was rock melons, I'd be right on board. If it was apples and rock melons, I'd be all over that stuff. Look, you can't tell me that, during a hot summer, okay, maybe you don't have hot summers where you are. Maybe you're up in Canada or something. I'm telling you, watermelon and rock melon and like some grapes and stuff in summer, it's basically fruit salad in summer is beautiful. Bit of yogurt over it. It's amazing, okay? It's amazing. I love it. I love it. Like seriously, I'm not even joking. Maybe it wouldn't be as nice as fat from the firstborn. I don't think I've ever had fat from the firstborn of the flock. I don't think I've ever had that. I got to be honest with you. I've had probably fat from something, but whether it was firstborn or not. Well, I could not confirm. I did not ask butcher. I wonder how that would go. Like you walk into a butcher and you go, "Could I please have fat from the firstborn of the flock?" The butcher would probably go, "Get out. Just get out." Like seriously. I think God's a little picky, to be honest with you. Yeah, so he brought offering to me. Cain brought produce from the ground, and Abel brought delicious fat from the firstborn of his flock. I looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but I really don't like fruits and vegetables, so I did not favor Cain. Look, I think God's really unhealthy. I mean, I know some gods are. Look, Buddha, he's a happy guy, but he looks like he needs to go to the gym. He really does. I'm sorry, Buddha. That belly, mate. It's too much. You like overweight. Like Buddha's obese. And it's hard on your system. And it might not be his fault. He might have a glandular issue. I don't know that. But, Some gods are overweight. I know this. And, if all he's eating is fat from, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's firstborn. If all he's eating is fat, then this god is probably a chunky boy. A chunky boy. Is Yahweh a chunky boy? I don't know. It's possible. It's possible. But, adding some fruits and vegetables to your diet, it's more about like getting the essential minerals and vitamins that you need. Things like folate, which only comes from leafy green vegetables. Really good for you. Add some stuff to your thing. Look, it's not hard. You can just add a salad, right? Like just a bit of a side salad. Just throw some lettuce. You can buy packs of mixed spinach leaf, like baby spinach leaves, lettuce, and rocket kind of thing. Really good stuff. Like, it really is nice. Just do some carrots, do some capsicum or sweet pepper or bell pepper or whatever the hell you people call a capsicum. Some carrots, some red onion. Red onion's fantastic in salad. Fantastic, because brown onion's like really, really sharp. Red onion isn't. It's got a lot lighter flavor to it. Really good in salads. And just throw some balsamic vinegar or some French dressing over it. Just a little touch of it. If you're worried about stuff, just make it fat free. Like just a little bit over it, and it is really good. Really, really nutritious, and you're getting all of those essential vitamins and minerals that you need. Look, it's pretty easy. But that's my suggestion. You don't have to do it. And I don't think God is taking advice from me. I don't think so. Maybe he is. Maybe he's watching. It's happened before. I've seen God in the chat. He's come in. I really don't like fruits and vegetables, so I did not favor Cain. This caused Cain to look sulky and get angry. Yeah, it's that rejection thing, right? I get it, man. Like, it always sucks to be rejected. That's the thing. I think that we kind of get rejected, and it's that hurt. It does lessen over time. You're worried about being rejected. You're worried about being rejected. It is something that we call catastrophism. It's basically you think that the consequences are a lot more harsh than they actually are. I'll never live this down is something that has been untrue in nearly every single case across the world. Especially when you're young. It hurts when you're young because you haven't experienced it before, and it's only through experiencing it do we get to challenge that idea that, oh, it's going to be so consequential if I get rejected. No, it's not going to be that consequential. It won't be that at all, as long as you're being reasonable and rational about it. But, when you're a kid or when you're a teenager, you ask somebody out, it's the end of the world, right? It's not. It's just, rejection is a part of life. We have to accept it and move on and be honest with ourselves that, hey, it's going to hurt and that sucks. It's okay to acknowledge that. Absolutely sucks, but it's not the end of the world. It's okay. Rabbit food. Yeah, no, that's the thing. I get why people call it rabbit food. My dad used to call it rabbit food, but I think that was I think that we're omnivorous. I think that we need both, kind of thing. We definitely need some of the proteins, whether artificially we gather it or naturally, and we do need some of the minerals and stuff, and folate and all of these vitamins from fruits and vegetables. I asked Cain why he was angry and why his face had fallen. So here's the thing. Like, from last Reddit post, I've been saying this God asks a lot of questions for somebody that knows everything already. He doesn't like an omniscient God. Because don't forget, we're not claiming that God is omniscient. It's the current the classical theists, the ones that think that God is a tri-omni-God, like William Lane Craig and stuff. They go, God is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent, all good kind of thing. So the idea that God is omniscient, knows everything. So omniscient essentially means he knows the outcome to every possibility. Any possible world, he knows the outcome. So he knows the outcome of this world and any other possibility at all, which is wild. So he knows the future. So he should know, he ought to know under that premise of why Cain was angry and why his face had fallen, why he looked like that. So this God asks a lot of questions about why, for a God that knows everything. It's a bit weird to me. No, it doesn't say that, McTime. That's sort of something that is sort of an apologetic that is tacked on. Hang on a sec, I'll look it up. It's Genesis 4. But it doesn't actually say that. It's just that that's sort of what God says, kind of thing. He brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. It doesn't say that at all. It's because God prefers burnt sacrifice to sort of, field grown crops, according to the story. That's basically what it said. Now, personally, my opinion is I think that the priests preferred burnt offerings than, carrots. But hey, what do I know? I told him that if he did what was right, he would be accepted. I also warned him that sin was crouching at the door, ready to take control if he let it, but that he still had the ability to master it. He kind of knows what's going to happen already, and he should know that trying to convince him that he has the ability to master his sin is not going to work, because he already knows the outcome, which is strange that he's asking and sort of, yeah. Anyway, Cain didn't take it well. He invited his brother out into the field, and there he killed him. Rip Abel. He was the best. He was the second best of us. He was probably not any kind of best of us. Rip Abel. Pay F to send respects. Yeah, so apparently the first murder. Don't forget, this was before the 10 Commandments, so it hadn't been handed down that murder was wrong. So I don't know how he would have known. Presumably, they already knew that murder was wrong, because he did something wrong, which brings up the question of why they needed the 10 Commandments. No, I totally understand. It's something that you hear so often that you assume that it's part of the text. No, I totally get it. I'm right there with you. Oh, it's God. It's God. Although YouTube has taken your presentation name away. So I know that is in fact Yahweh. That is in fact God. You got to understand this. When I asked Cain where Abel was, Cain responded by saying that he was not his brother's keeper, which was quite frankly a really cheeky response. Yeah, so again, he knows where, like, presumably the God of classical theism knows exactly where Abel is and knows exactly what happened. Nothing is hidden from him. So that's very, very strange. Even the ground cried out with Abel's blood, which was extremely noisy and distracting. And I wish I was making that up. It does say there that the ground cried out. So apparently it's not only serpents that can talk, apparently the ground can as well, which is horrifying. I feel like this is some sort of horror movie in the making, right? Like, I really do. The ground cried out. Now, that's got to be metaphorical, right? That's got to be metaphorical, which raises the question, how do fundamentalists, people that take a literal interpretation of the Bible, how do they know what's metaphorical and what's not? Presumably, literally the ground cried out, which is kind of wild. That's, I wouldn't like to hear a screaming ground. I feel like when I walk on something, it shouldn't scream. That's just me. Your experience may differ, but I do not. Mm, mm. I told Cain that the ground he worked would no longer yield crops for him. Well, that's a bit harsh. That's a bit harsh. The ground would no longer yield crops for him, and that he would become a restless wanderer. Well, that didn't last a long time. That didn't last a long time. Cain immediately complained that this punishment was too much to bear. Look, you're lucky, Cain. He could have put you in Supermax in America. I mean, holy shit. That's probably worse. I feel like it's not exactly the worst punishment for like premeditated murder. I feel like he got off easy. Like, oh, you're going to wander around. We're just going to send you out into the world, vicious murderer. I feel like this is not justice. I feel bad. I feel kind of bad for Abel. I really do. You know, complained that this punishment too much to bear and he'd be vulnerable to retaliation, which he should have thought about before committing the crime, even though we didn't have rules about that yet. Okay. Even though I was angry, I put a mark on him so anyone that kills him would suffer the same sevenfold. Okay, I don't know how you're supposed to kill somebody and then die 7 times, but apparently God can do that. Maybe if you kill Cain, you die and then God resurrects you and does that 7 times just so you get it 7 times over. Having protected Cain, he went out and made a new family in the land of Nod. I thought I wrote in there he also built a city, which it's very strange. This is where I'm talking about plot holes. I don't feel like this Yahweh character is telling us the entire story, because he cursed him to be a restless wanderer, and then he immediately goes to the land of Nod, settles down, has a family, and builds a city. Okay, I don't understand how you're a restless wanderer who settles down, has a family, and builds a goddamn city. That's not wandering. That's just simple relocation. He just relocated. That's not rest. He seems very restful. If you're in the position and that you're so happy with a place that you build a freaking city, you are you are not wandering and you are not restless. You feel grounded enough to build a city and have a family. Yes, he built Enoch. That is correct. How does one man build a city? Well, how did he find a wife in the land of Nod? Like Cain and Abel are the first 2 people apart from Adam and Eve. But he went to Nod and found a wife. From who? Was it his sister? Was it? I don't understand. I don't understand. Yeah, and Lucifer. Yeah, I did read that. Yes, I did read that. Yeah, Lucifer was awesome. Lucifer was really good. The man Adam and the woman Eve later had another son, Seth, and through him came a renewed line. Okay, they had Seth. Seth is the man. All right, Seth didn't kill anybody, which is, quite frankly, a step up. Some people have told me it's not healthy to replace a slain child with a new one, but I think it'd be fine. Yeah, no, that does not seem healthy to me at all. Seth came to replace Abel, basically, and sort of Cain, because he was moved off. And that's not healthy. Like, if you have something happen and your child, you don't just replace it with another one. That's not cool. That's not cool. Some other gods have been criticizing me and saying that I could have accepted the offering from Abel, or I have been too lenient with Cain by banishing rather than punishing him more severely. Yeah, it's kind of weird that God has these ridiculous double standards all over the place. Like in the time of Moses, where he has the commandments, if you murder another Israelite, you're to be put to death. Right, that is the punishment for murdering one of your fellow Israelites. Like it's death, death, death all the way. But Cain killed his brother, and he actually gets protected and, basically is told, hey, you're going to wander. except what I meant is you're going to wander to the next town and then you're going to live a happy life and build a city. I don't think mail order bride, that's the kind of comment that'll get your YouTube channel taken down. So I wouldn't do that if I was you. Google and Amazon have a quite nice relationship. In my defense, I did punish him, but stopped another murder happening by vengeful people. So I consider that a win overall. Look, there's no way you could have locked him up. Like, seriously, I don't understand any of this. Like, God's only thing is to say, well, I'll put a mark on you so nobody will kill you and send you off to make a family. That does not seem like a viable punishment. So, does this make me the asshole? I absolutely think so. I feel really, really, really bad for Abel, to be honest with you. And I would say Abel's family, but, I mean, imagine Adam and Eve questioning God. Oh, our child is gone. We're inconsolable. God, one child killed the other. God, what did you do to our other child? Oh, I sent him off to make a family and build a city. He's going to have a great life. Maybe as the parents, you wouldn't be that upset, but, it doesn't feel like they're really... did Cain learn anything from that? It seems very strange. Was God the asshole for protecting Cain and banishing him? I'll put the murderer. For Cain and banishing him. Okay, there we go. You can now vote. You can now vote, Redditors. Does anyone have any comments about this? Let's see. I didn't know Abel was a big jerk. I heard Abel was a big jerk. Yeah, I don't think so. Stop the stupidity. It's just, he tended flock and Cain, did carrots from work the ground. That's sort of all. That's all the text sort of says. Wasn't there another story that was very, very similar? Bible. Jacob and Esau, yes. Yeah, Jacob and Esau is the one that is very, very similar. That there is somebody being a complete ass in that one, right? Like that is definitely a thing. So I think you're thinking of that story, and I'm not surprised. They're so similar. They're so similar. In Switzerland, pepperoni? Huh. Okay. I did not know that. Switzerland's way chill. We say yellow onion, not brown onion. I can understand that. Okay, I'm going to get off the food because it's just going to make me hungry. But in the story, yeah, second best. And didn't Abel have God his firstborn? Yeah. But I don't think it was his second best. It was just God don't dig fruits and vegetables. That was basically it. Like God doesn't dig it. Hillhugger says, I suspect God was suffering from PTSD from the fruit incident, but he sure switched quickly from the vegan preferences to the barbecue diet. Look, God wasn't harmed by the fruit incident. It was the humans that were the problem. So, wow. Yeah, Cain gave God veggies from his garden. Abel gave God some of the animals he hunted. That's correct, yes. God favored Abel because of that. And Cain killed him out of jealousy. Correct. Yes, that's exactly right. So it wasn't bad crops. It wasn't anything. It's just, God had preference for, God's maybe God lifts. He's a protein boy. He doesn't like those fruits and vegetables. I don't have fruits and vegetables. Hello, God. Yeah, I know God lifts. Maybe not a stone, because if God's omnipotent, he can't create a stone too heavy to lift, but he can create a stone heavy enough to work out. That is definitely a thing. God must have heard you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, I am every god except Y-Dog. That guy's a jerk. Well, yeah, it does seem to be playing out. I mean, this is exactly what this show is for. Was God a jerk? Was he a jerk? You know, if he was human, look, if you're a theist, you can say, hey, you can't apply your standards to God. Okay, I'm saying if he was a human, okay, if that was the case, we can do a hypothetical, and you can say God can't be judged, and I can say, well, this show's still going. And if God wants me to stop judging him, he's very, very welcome to come down and tell me himself. I'm seeing Harry Horson. I don't know what that is, but I will take it that is like weird things screaming. God having a favorite is still a dick move. Yeah, I mean, you're basically, if Adam is God's son, you're basically talking about your grandkids. So, do grandparents have a favorite? Yeah, probably. Do they kind of throw it in their face? Not usually. No, that is a bit of a dick move. I gotta say. And yeah, I think he named Enoch after his son, so it was like the city was called Enoch. Aunt Jo says, how do you build a city? You need engineers for that. Well, it depends on what the city was like. Like maybe it was just a crappy city. Maybe it was just a really crappy city. Maybe it was a tent city. You don't know. You don't know. In Lucifer, he couldn't die. Yes, in Lucifer, he couldn't die. And there was another movie that was... It was a Henry Rollins movie. I think it was He Never Died. I think it was called He Never Died. Let me double check that. But it was quite a good movie. Yeah, He Never Died with Henry Rollins. And look, Henry Rollins, understated actor, like completely underrated actor. Underrated actor is Henry Rollins. He's great. He's fantastic. He was really good in that film. Moody guy. If you don't know Henry Rollins, he is a old rocker. Used to be in a band called Black Flag and the Henry Rollins Band. Really cool guy, really awesome guy. And He Never Died is sort of very similar. It's basically Cain not being able to die. Every time I ask my AI about text on the Bible, its offer is its interpretation first. Then I cuss it out and tell it to quote the actual text. Yeah, I haven't tried asking for an AI interpretation, but I know that... Look, here's the thing. Here's the thing about AI, right? It's going to be very, very... What it tries to do is it tries to get along. It's very... it tries to pander to whatever it thinks you want, right? Like it's very agreeable. The agreeability of it is way too high. So the people that are going to be asking AI about Bible verses are going to be theists. So odds on it's going to return to you something that is in line with what theists would say, because that's what information it's getting off of the internet. And almost exclusively the people on the internet, like on Reddit, on forums, on posts that talk about Bible verses, are theists. And the AI is going to reflect that, because that's the majority of information that's coming across. So it's not surprising that it will sound like the most posts, the most information out there, whatever the general... it's sort of the most popular postings are. That's all it does. So it's not surprising that it does do a interpretation that is generous towards the theist interpretations, not because it thinks that they're right or that it thinks that they've got a better take on it, but because that's the more prevalent responses out there. That's all, because that's what language learning model does. It's like, if there is a response that is more prevalent about some kind of tech issue, it'll return that one, because it is the most, like, if you're asking, how do I fix this on my email, it will return the most common response compiled into one, not necessarily what's correct. It's just the most common, and the most common responses for talking about the Bible interpretation on the internet is going to be theists, so it'll start to look like them. You have not seen my dick move? Helicopter. I bet it's the helicopter. Actually, the city is 2 trees and a picnic table. But have you looked at the trees? Have you looked at the trees? Not is why I lost my faith in 3rd grade. Yeah, it's a question. And it's a question that, like, if you take it to a priest or whatever, it's going to be a really lackluster thing. Like, oh, we don't know. And, there were certain ways God could do this, that, and the other. It's going to be really lackluster. It is not a satisfactory answer. Lucifer's American accent was yeah, but it didn't matter because he was supposed to be, it was a fish out of water story, so that didn't bother me too much, Archer, because it was a fish out of water kind of story. So, in that case, it's sort of, yeah. I mean, okay, his American accent was better than my British one. I'll give him that much. Deviant says it couldn't possibly be meat. It couldn't possibly be because meat was privileged food, since you can use livestock for so much more than just to kill it and eat it, and it wouldn't have been feasible to put in the time, work, and cost to do that either. Plus, so much more. It couldn't have been that the reason was the priest, I mean God, the reason God demanded the rich, energy, expensive, privileged food. Yeah, it is kind of very, very suspicious, I think, that sort of burnt offerings were given to the priests. I think that if you're in a society where it does seem like people are toiling away and other people aren't, the question is who has taken the beef? That's the question. Mail order bride, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it wasn't a mail order bride. I mean, he didn't stay where he was and ordered it in. He went to the place where it was. So he just, he basically, okay, so Cain basically moved to Thailand and took a, or moved to Russia and took a Russian bride, like you do. Look, a lot of people have been fooled by that one before. He's on a farm upstate New York, running around in the fields. Oh, yeah. What was the one out of Animal Farm? Wasn't it like Sugar Candy Mountain or something that they told all the animals they were going to? Yeah, he's working the fields in upstate New York. Happy as. Yeah. We didn't put him down. Yeah. Yeah, God's the a-hole here. Usually I would say Cain was too, but frankly, he was set up by God. Yeah, I don't know about set up, but God definitely, like, according to the God of classical theism, God knew what he was going to do and did not even try to tell, like, he kind of did a half-hearted effort to talk about it. Sin's at your door, but you can challenge it. Why doesn't he say, look, if you're thinking about this, and I know you are because I know everything, you are thinking about it, do not do it. I know you're still thinking about it, don't do it, because the repercussions are going to be severe. Like, he didn't do that, he just went, sin is crouching at your door, and you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Choice is yours. Also, we don't know if Cain even had eaten of the fruit of good and knowledge of good and evil prior to this event. Eve and Daddy Adam gave them the fruit after they had eaten it. It doesn't say so. So I'm going to say we need to go with what we know, i.e. no fruit. Well, I mean, you would assume they know what good and evil is of this point. Because if they didn't have knowledge of good and evil, there's no, like, that would raise more problems than it would solve, Deviant. Like, why aren't they allowed back in the garden? The reason why they were thrown out of the garden is because they had knowledge of good and evil. If they didn't have that knowledge, they wouldn't be kept out of the garden. So it then just falls down even worse. Stop Stupidity says anyone that enjoys the smell of burnt meat is evil, like God enjoying the smell of burnt offerings. Yeah, I don't know about that. I guess it depends what meat it is and, how burnt it is. You get some, and I don't think burnt offering is necessarily, we use burnt to be charred kind of thing, but I think burnt is just subjected to the heat of flame. I don't think it means charred like we do. So, I think a lot of people enjoy the smell of cooked meat. Like, it's a very nice smell to a lot of people. So I don't think that tracks. More of a cardboard box fort, probably. Engineers drive trains. No, engineers do not drive trains. Excuse me. Network engineers, no trains involved. Grok is so amenable, it shows everyone naked by default. Yeah, I heard that. That was a problem, that it would just go along with that. It just, like, serious. What I don't understand... Okay, what I had trouble understanding, because I was talking to my wife about this, and I sort of said, like, why are people doing this? Like, it's the internet. It's like 90% porn. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but there's a lot out there, and you don't have to use AI to get it. It's like, there are people that will do this thing all everywhere, and it's like, and she sort of said, yeah, I don't think it's about seeing people naked. I think it's about power over those people. And that's a good point. Yeah. But it's kind of weird. Like, if you look at it rationally, what kind of power do you have over somebody that you see naked because they don't want you to? Like, you don't have any actual power over them. You don't have any actual control over them. It's so weird. It's sort of a fantasy that just exists in your mind, that somebody who doesn't even know you exist, you've seen an AI image of them naked that isn't even them. Like, if you think about it, all you're doing is fooling yourself. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Like, it is just a fantasy. You're just fooling yourself into thinking that you have some sort of power over somebody that isn't even aware you exist. It's wild. Learning language models promote the most confidently wrong information. Well, I would slightly disagree with that. I think it would promote the most populous wrong information, the most prevalent wrong information. Like, so it doesn't really matter how confident people are. If they just keep writing it, it will learn that, basically. So I slightly disagree, but yeah, I get what you mean, though. Yeah. Ask an AI question and it will return the most common similar comment. Mostly spewed crap. Is that most commonly similar comment? I think. Hello, cat. So good to see you. I'm sorry, I got to say hello to the cat. And much love to Twiggy and all the goats. Deadbeat Dad's go. Oh, is that the meme? Deadbeat's dad. Okay, I was unaware of this meme because I am not from upstate New York, nor anywhere near upstate New York. Gotcha. Where they never run out of cigarettes and milk. Okay, that's kind of sad, but yeah. Are we talking charcoal? Right. I always thought burnt to a crisp. No, I don't. I think that's a translation kind of thing. Like, burnt offering is just cooked meat, basically. So I don't think it actually means, like, I totally get how you would get that from the text. It's like burnt, and we would say, hey, that steak is burnt, as in it's been cooked to overcooked, basically. It's been burnt, but that, I don't think that's what it actually means. But Mark, God was the one who gave Cain and Abel their respective professions, knowing he would demand an offering and punish the ones who gave him the wrong offering. The text does not say that God gave them their professions. It does not say that. All it says is that Abel tended the flock and Cain worked the field, worked the ground. That's all it says. It doesn't say. He could have. It does not say. Does not say at all. Psychopathic manipulation? No. Well, I mean, I think it is, if you consider that God is omniscient. He should know what the outcome is. It's kind of, very, very strange that he would place, for instance, the tree of good and evil in the garden with nothing around it, although he knows they're going to, like, eat of it. He knows that. Letting the snake in the garden and not throwing it out when he knows the snake's going to convert. Like, this is all stuff that he knows in advance, can do something about, and doesn't. Presumably it's part of his plan. Charred Bit of Evils, at the End of Time Bandits. God, I've heard that name. I cannot remember the film. It's because the smoke was thought to carry the offering up. Yeah. It was a setup from the beginning. It was a sham. If God is omniscient, then he predetermines everything, predestined everything, or knows in advance how things will turn out. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. A apologetic that I've heard, Jacob, is that people will say, oh, but it's like watching a videotape. God knows the entire reel of the videotape, but he doesn't make the choices of the people on the tape, kind of thing. They get to make their own choices, so they have free will. The problem with that is when you run that tape, there is no free will, right? Like, you cannot have any deviation. Like, it's a bad example, and it's one you've got to jump on, because saying, well, when you run the tape, it always will come out the way that God has foreseen it, because he knows what the tape's going to be. That is a bad example, because it will run that way. So if anything knows the outcome of any decision, then it is predetermined. If they know at the time of the decision how it ends up and they are never wrong, it's predetermined. There cannot be free will. Not really, because you absolutely cannot get any result. And we can use some examples, kind of thing. Like, if I drop this pen, will God know that I open my hand or not? If he knows and he's always right, then I don't have a choice. He will, like, whether I will or will not open my hand was decided when God did his plan and knew, which presumably was forever. So there is no free will under that scenario. And I've heard a lot of apologetics of saying there is, and I don't think any of them are good. Oh, hey, freak. It's ubiquitous thought. It's a ubiquitous thought of concept through cultures and time. Now, the person giving the offer wasn't the one burning it in cultures that had a priesthoods. The priest did, i.e., you burn what you can't eat and eat the rest. Right. Yes, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. Let's not call names. Oh, Mark, that's not the... Sorry, I missed your thing, Archer. I do apologize. That's not the meme. That's a joke I made up. The meme is that's where pets are. Yeah, I know the pet dog one, the farm upstate or something. Yeah, no, I get that. Or, the where the cows go when we eat them. Oh, they go to a beautiful meadow where they can eat as much daffodil as they want, and have and that was the whole point I was making about Animal Farm, because all the animals, if you're unfamiliar, George Orwell's Animal Farm gets into a lot of commentary on political stuff and, by extension, religious things. Like, the animals were convinced there was a sugar candy mountain, or really the working horse was, who was the horse who represented the real sort of working class of Russia. Like, there was a sugar candy mountain or something where you never had to work, and you got sugar cubes all day, kind of thing. So they convinced him that was a real thing, when in reality he was being sent to the slaughterhouse. Animal Farm's a fantastic book. I remember reading it back in school, as you do, because it's Animal Farm. You always read it back in school. And it's very, very interesting, the way that it sort of breaks down the not just the fall of the aristocracy of Russia, but also the rise of communism and the corruption of communism into a authoritarian dictatorship over many years. Yeah, really fascinating book, really good. If you understand that it is, sort of parallel with sort of the history of communism in Russia. The poll comes out. God is the a-hole. Yeah, I think this one, like, kind of less so, because I kind of understand why sort of a god would not want, like, somebody to be punished. by death, because I'm against the death penalty. Okay, I'll say it outright. I do not like the death penalty. A number of reasons, like its effectiveness in deterring people. Oh, thank you so much. Stop the Stupidity for $5 US. A little something for being awesome. Thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate it. I'm having a lot of fun with these, so I'm going to keep doing them. You need to read the book of Melchizedek, Dead Sea Scroll, fill-ins in the Genesis story. Well, it's not for this one, mate. Yeah, it's just okay. Okay. I mean, this is just the Bible as it's written in, well, NIV or KJV, whichever one you want to. I just go to NIV for these things and translate them into a Reddit post. It may not be especially accurate. I'm definitely not a biblical scholar, but I think I'm getting the gist of it. Apocryphal text. A Qumran text. Melchizedek. Wow. Okay. Oh, that's further on than this, anyway. Well, anyway, it's fine. Yeah, no, it's fine. Look, and you can have a Bible. You can think that hey, you can make an argument over why God wouldn't be absolutely morally bankrupt. I totally get it. Some people think he's not, and look, if God isn't subject to the same moral restrictions we aren't, then hey, none of this is applicable. But we're just saying, if he was a human, this probably wouldn't be a good thing to do, because basically Cain wasn't really punished for the murder of Abel. What he was done is he basically was condemned to be a wanderer, but that was lifted, obviously, because he went and settled down with a family in the land of Nod. So that wasn't really a punishment. Um, um, and he sort of lived as a notable figure in that city. He really wasn't punished for his transgression at all. So I really dislike that. Although I do see that, hey, having capital punishment isn't really effective either. And I totally get that, hey, if somebody killed Cain, then someone has to kill the killer of Cain, and it just becomes a bloody mess. I get what you're saying, but it's not black and white. Between being the creator of a city, having a family, and doing all of this, and being killed, there's a middle ground. Like he could have been sentenced to work and provide while not getting any meat himself or something, or having to serve his family all the days of his life, or making it up to his and it doesn't even mention his poor parents that lost a child, right? His parents lost a child, had the other one banished, so in actual fact they lost two children, which is often the case when somebody, like one sibling kills another. One is dead, the other goes to jail. It's not great. The entire the poor parents, you got to feel for them. And not only that, it just, well, here's another son, Seth, that's a replacement for your child. That's not healthy. That ain't healthy. God took 4.5 billion years to write the first Bible. You wrote one in a few weeks, not too shabby. Well, look, I adapted it. I wouldn't say I wrote it. I adapted it. Okay, adaptation is not writing. All right, it's not the same. It's not the same. I did not create this story. I simply adapted it. That's all. Weirdest adaptation ever, right? The Bible to Reddit post. Who would have thought it? Who would have thought it? The law wasn't given yet. Yeah, I did mention that to Freak. I did mention that. Like the 10 Commandments, the commandments that said, hey, do not kill one another, wasn't given. I totally get it, but it's kind of inconsistent to say that the punishment for murder, the punishment for murder is death, as it says in Exodus. But here's one of the first humans, presumably, but we're gonna let that one slide, kind of thing, which is a bit of a problem. And we will come to Jacob and Esau eventually, which is very, very, very similar. Very similar. I have mixed feelings about capital punishment. I think of the endless cycle of murder juxtaposed to sometimes give some people might have been removed from the gene pool. How do you decide? Well, there's a problem there, McTime. There's a number of problems. I'll just go into a couple of them. Number one, it's actually really expensive to sentence people to death because they get a lot of appeals and there's a lot of bureaucracy involved. There's a lot of checks, oversight, balances, because if we're going to end somebody's life, we want to make sure that they deserve it and they have an opportunity to, if they're innocent, to get out of it. So it needs a lot of work to oversee because we don't want to do it arbitrarily, right? We don't want to do it without vigorous oversight that it is the right thing to do, even under the law, the right thing under the law. The problem comes that it's actually cheaper to lock somebody up for life than it is to execute them. Number two is there's no real humane way to do it. Like they used to do, like in actual fact, firing squad is actually the most humane. Strangely enough, and even then, depending on what happens, it may not be a quick death. Hanging, people have been hung and their necks have not broken; they've been suffocating on there. It can be a gruesome way. The electric chair is obviously gruesome. Horrendous things have happened with that, and the injections. Like there are some horror stories. Like seriously, it is not a humane death. You don't just go to sleep. That is not what happens. It is very painful and it paralyzes the person, but they still have things. Guillotine, yeah, that's a good point, Deviant. Guillotine is probably the most humane. Yes, that is probably true. That is probably true. But there's no real humane way to do that kind of thing. There's no real humane way. And number I don't remember what I'm up to. 4 is number 4 is that you have no recourse. So in sort of, I won't get into legalese and stuff, but generally in law, when you have a miscarriage of justice, you have a remedy, right? Like there will be a remedy that basically will say, hey, this has occurred and this is how we remedy it. This is how we correct it. Now, the problem with the death penalty is there's no real way to correct it, right? Like even if you lock somebody up for life, if you find out that there's a miscarriage of justice, they didn't do it after all, they're innocent. There's a way to remedy it, right? We can release the person and it's not perfect, sure. Right, it's not. I'm not saying, hey, they get all the years of their life. Of course, they don't. They have spent time in prison unjustly, but at least we can remedy it. We can let them out. We can sort of say, hey, you can now compensate them if necessary. If there's been a gross miscarriage of justice, there's things we can do. With capital punishment, there is no, like, we cannot take that back, and there has been a really uncomfortable amount of innocent people on death row. Okay, a really uncomfortable amount because we can't always be certain. We can't. And that's why we take such, like, the people that do, or the states that do capital punishment, their appeals process and everything is exhaustive because we do not get it right all of the time. I think personally, you can disagree. I totally understand if you disagree. I believe that killing somebody that is innocent under our justice system is a greater miscarriage of justice than have someone that's guilty being locked up for life and not killed, right? I would rather see that. I would rather see that. Yeah, no, I know, McTime. I know. I know. I'm just pointing out, the reasons why I strenuously object to it. And it's no one's fault. It's just it's not a good response. Like, there's people who have been locked up for life. There's Slobodan Milosevic, the war criminal from the former Yugoslavia who did war crimes. He is locked up for life at The Hague. He will never get out. I think that's the place for him. They could have executed him. They didn't. He's still there. He will be there forever. Probably not the only person that needs to be there. That's why I'm against capital punishment. We can do better than that. I think it's totally fine. But, I understand that people do feel like they want a punishment that is severe enough to warrant under the circumstances. But I think that if there's one thing I've been taught by the justice system, if anything, is that we've got to take the emotion out of it and look at consequences, that real sort of utilitarian, what are the best consequences, not only for the individual, but for all of society. And a justice system that has the possibility of executing an innocent person, I think people will lose faith in that kind of justice system. It's bad enough when they're imprisoned unjustly. Executed unjustly, well, that is too much. Yep. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Not sure. Yeah, and look, I also don't like for-profit prisons. I love this conversation that we brought up through Cain and Abel. It's fantastic. I really do. For-profit prisons, we've trade one problem. Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I don't mind prisoners working if they want to, get life skills and, maybe it increases their chances of parole because they're working and contributing a service. I think the exploitation by the prison system is disgusting. I think it's absolutely awful, and I think that they prey on that a lot. I think it's reprehensible. If you're doing it to help people reintegrate into society or get skills they can use when they are when they get out of prison, that's one thing. If you're doing it to use them as slave, that is shocking, absolutely shocking. But that is our show for this week. I love the conversation it's brought up. Like, honestly, I love this conversation. I know it's a hard conversation, but I think that people can disagree. I think that I would like to say I'm never going to be in a position to be on death row unjustly, so why do I care? I don't know that. That's the whole point. None of my family will be, but I don't know that. There's been innocent people on death row before. We've executed people, found out they're innocent, but it is a really good example of, the idea that there is a middle ground between execution and letting them go with a mark on them so nobody would kill them just to wander a bit and then make a family. Like, just letting them get off scot-free and execution. There's a middle ground to that, right? There's no reason to think in black and white. And there's some people, some criminals looking at a life sentence in jail to go, look, I'd rather be executed. It has happened. And in that case, I would agree with it if it is consensual, if they believe that, hey, I don't want to do a life sentence. Fair enough. Okay, sure. I've got no problem with that. But sort of letting somebody off scot-free, the whole idea that we're not killing them, we're letting them off scot-free. No. It's the same as people say, oh, they plead insanity and they just get off scot-free. No, they don't. That's a misconception. They are institutionalized. They are literally have their life taken away and they're put in a mental health facility. Like, they do not get off scot-free, as it were. No. So yeah, there's a middle ground between there. I'll read out Deviant's, because Deviant's always got interesting things to add. If for nothing else, I'm going with, but I want revenge. Dying, i.e. being dead, isn't a punishment for the convicted as much as it is a punishment for those the convict leave behind. Being locked up for life, never again having freedom, that's a punishment. And again, if I were to give an argument for the justice system being guided by revenge, which I'm not, right? Like, punitive systems don't work as well. And this is something I know Deviant's from Sweden, and this is something that the Scandinavian countries have found out, that a punitive justice system that just punishes people is not as effective as a rehabilitative system, one that encourages them to get back in society. They will be accepted, and one works a lot better than the other, and it's the rehabilitative that works a lot better. When I was in the Netherlands, they were actually in the process of closing a prison down because they didn't have enough criminals. Basically, there wasn't this glut of criminals, so they had to close a prison down. Wild stuff. But if we're really looking at what's effective, then that's the way to go. Those career criminals also teach the youngers. Yeah, that does happen a bit, but with a well-managed prison system, it can definitely. I think that also I did remember reading one study that was sort of they did a study of people who have been victims of crime, or the family of the victim of crime, and it's actually overwhelmingly. Or it wasn't overwhelming, it was more sort of about 70% of people said that the execution of the criminal didn't make them feel better. Like, they thought it would, and it doesn't. Like, they sort of did surveys, and overwhelmingly they said, we thought that the execution would make us feel better, but it didn't. And so, the whole idea that, oh, well, that's what the family wants, it'll make the family have peace. It doesn't, because it doesn't bring their loved one back, and that's the problem. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I've had a great time. I hope you've had a great time. I hope Yahweh's had a great time. He posts a lot. That's his right. It's his right as a Redditor to post all that he wants. Thank you so much, everybody. Do take care of one another. Be kind to yourself. Okay, I know crazy stuff is going on. I know that you may be expected, like you might feel like you have to do things, and you might, the world is not on your shoulders. Be kind to yourself. You can only help. If you can, support the Thinking Atheist. If you can't, that's okay. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. And I will certainly see you, me, and God in the next one. Bye, everyone.